Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining us audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about deportations. So this is where either the government, this is in a white Western country, is attempting to deport an illegal arrival, and that could be illegal, they've arrived illegally or they've overstayed their visa or they're in the country illegally. Or someone who may have arrived illegally, even as a child with their parents, but who has committed a crime or maybe a series of crimes, but has committed a crime where they have a prison sentence of greater than 12 months detention. And that this means they fail what's known as, in Australia at least, and it's not dissimilar elsewhere, where they failed what's known as a character test. So they're a criminal, and their residency visa can be revoked by the government. So they could have arrived when they were 1 day old, and they could be in their 50s or something, and they could be then sent back to the country of their birth, based on this character test. So now I've noticed that when it comes to a straight white male, they're very quick to. The government seems, very quick to initiate deportation proceedings again, even if the person arrived when they were an infant with their family. So they didn't arrive through their own agency. It was a decision of their folks or the family members, adult family members. But they seem keen to, well, not keen to do necessarily. It's not that they don't try with others, but there seems to be no obstacles in the way. Members, but they seem keen to, well, not keen to do necessarily. It's not that they don't try with others, but there seems to be no obstacles in the way. There's no outrage. There's no rush of NGOs giving free legal representation, paying for court filing fees, representing these people in court. And just looking at a deportation order against a black African guy, and it seems that every NGO in the universe, they were able to get emergency court hearings, stays. They were able to achieve all sorts of things, even though the person had arrived illegally, had given false information, and had committed crimes. And you could say, that if you're going to deport anybody, surely that would be it. But instead, because the person was black and came from a black country, then just about every available resource, legal aid. And by the way, some of these people are having, to fight deportation orders, are having between $500,000 and $1 million in legal fees spent on them to, appeal after appeal, more appeals, and so on. So, and the basis for the final decision, it appears to me at least, be very flimsy. The person has now decided that they want to become a transgender lesbian, and therefore their life may be in danger, could be, and it's possible that, and so all these vague sort of references, and that's it. Now, the argument about sending white people back to white majority countries is that look, we know that's a safe country, we know their life isn't in danger, so that that's not an issue. So the bigger issues that are used to prevent deportation of black people, that if they go back, their lives will be in danger, it's a dangerous country, or those sorts of things. Those arguments don't necessarily apply. So I do get the difference in the so-called arguments, but I do sort of, and I'm sure many people do, why is $500,000 or $1 million to be spent on an illiterate black peasant to help them stay in a white country when there's nothing to be spent, no help at all for the white guys to be deported, who may be a poor guy and he may not be somebody with a well-paying job or anything. He may be on the bones of his ass. But so why is his life not worth, or his rights rather, not worth defending or supporting with buckets of cash as the illiterate black peasant. I don't understand why the two don't achieve the same amount, but of course it's different. The globalists want to bring brown and black peasants into the white West, but they don't care what happens to the white guy, whether he gets deported or not. Now, there's a few cases sort of recently where I've come across where the deportation of the white guy, the government swings into action quite quickly to deport somebody, a straight white guy, and the whole process is usually happens fairly quickly. The amount of appeals that the illiterate black peasant gets, the appeal after appeal, the white guy definitely doesn't get any of that. The tribunals, if they are involved, that unanimously and almost unanimously, 99.99% of the time, vote in favour of the illiterate black peasant having another appeal or being allowed to stay while other information is worked through. They by the same degree of unanimity, they decide that the white guy can be deported. So it's clearly a racially based, ideologically based tribunals are hearing these things. And I think it's all ideological throughout the whole base of who gets free legal aid, who doesn't, and so on. But they're having a look at one guy, and he's someone who's, you possibly call him a career criminal. He's a white guy, straight white guy, and so he got a sentence after multiple sort of lesser offences. He got a sentence a few years, I think, 5 years or something like that, for having a punch up of a number of police officers, and then he was deported subsequently because he had more than 12 months in prison. Now, he came from, I think it was Scotland when he was 6, 7 years old, something like that. And so he was then deported back there on the basis, well, it's a safe country. And he said, well, hey, my family lives in Australia. Everyone I know lives in Australia. My family does. My employment's here. Why are you deporting me? I said, I don't know anyone in the United Kingdom and got no relatives and so on. So too bad, buddy, you're out of here. Now, the guy did fail the character test, so I got that. But so do a lot of the brown and black people, or the people from the Middle East fail the character test. But somehow that doesn't automatically result in their being deported. So my concern is, why are they not being treated equally? Why do all people who fail the character test not get deported? So that lack of uniformity is what sort of concerns me in this. But there was another case recently where a guy, again, a straight white guy, when he talks, it sounds like he's mentally retarded, but I don't know, intellectually challenged. And I know it's a bit hard to sort of say, because they've decided to turn, at the last minute, the media decided to turn him into a victim. Even the left-wing media have depicted him now or portrayed him as a victim. Now, he's a guy who's committed multiple offences and is alleged to have committed a robbery with a weapon, so he got I think it was a 3 or 4 year sentence. So that. And with previous offences as well, that puts him over the limit. He lives, as I understand it, on some Aboriginal rural community, although that was a little bit hard to work out. And he has multiple children, multiple Aboriginal women, I think is how it goes. And I don't know if he's had any consistent employment at all ever, but he's ended up. When he's released from prison, he was it was to be deported, but it's been discovered since that he's got a terminal disease, and on that basis, it may be that he's allowed to stay in Australia. So children he's had no contact with, wives he's never been married to or doesn't know, and so on. So I know he's saying, I want to be with my family and that sort of thing, but he talks like someone who has lived for a long time in a rural Aboriginal community. So but the issue here is how swiftly the government swung into action to deport him. Now, also there's cases where people who've had checkered legal sort of or interactions with the law have decided to, say, come from New Zealand to Australia, and their unlawful behaviours have continued when they get here, and then they've been deported from Australia to New Zealand. Now, these crimes tend to be violent crimes, robbery with firearms and constant beatings, assaulting police, these sorts of things. But again, they seem to be very, for someone of Middle Eastern origin or African origin, they're from Somalia. These people, many of them commit many crimes and violent crimes. But why do those standards not apply to them? So my feeling is the overhaul, if there is anything needed, is that if the deportation laws need to be applied equally and evenly, not simply apply to straight white males to be deported, but again, across the board. So I'm finding it hard to understand why the government allows third-party funding of lawyers only for certain people. If you're going to change the law or consider a loophole, that would be it. That these NGOs and globalist funds, they can't pick and choose. I will do that guy, but not this guy. Everybody who's up for deportation should have their case examined by free legal aid lawyers or free NGO-funded lawyers to examine the merits or lack of merit, as it may be, of the case. And I think that's an urgently needed reform. And it would certainly stop this habit of only picking one type of person as being an easy target to deport, whilst the other one, that's just too hard, so we won't bother. It's been Tacitus today, and thank you for listening.